The system told him he would die in a fraction of a second if he didn't become a player. So if that was the case, Jinwoo gave a fierce stare. I'll make it count until the last second. Boom! Crash! 2 more knights went down. However, despite Jinwoo's determination, his body was bruised. He was having trouble staying upright. He struggled to lift his arms to block their attacks. One knight came at him from the front, while another attacked from behind. Boom! Jinwoo grunted in pain as they hit him from both sides. More knights closed in on all sides, eager not to miss their chance. Jinwoo was trapped and could not move at all. The knights kept piling on top of him one after another. What started as a wave of silver armor became a mountain of it. Jinwoo struggled to breathe. Huff! Huff! He gasped for air. It felt like the weight might crush him. One of Jinwoo's hands managed to slip through a small gap between the knights. He helplessly stretched it toward the sky, but there was nothing to grab. HP 9310, 2070. It seemed hopeless, but Jinwoo refused to give up. Not yet. As the hand reaching toward the sky tightened into a fist, the countdown revealed its result. Then the countdown ended at 0. You have not completed the daily quest. You will be sent to a place called the penalty zone. That's when it hit him. He had not completed the daily quest. He skipped it on purpose to test his skills before trying to conquer the demon's castle dungeon. Things did not go as planned. Rumble, everything around him shook just like what happened in the hospital. Crunch. The knights surrounding Jinwoo one by one turned into sand. The world was changing. Jinwoo laughed quietly, thinking about how strange everything seemed. For some reason, Jinwoo kept thinking about the message he got before the quest started. Good luck. It felt like the quest was going to be so hard that he might need good luck. Was the system pushing him to get the highest score possible? Even if it meant he had to depend on luck. You could call it luck, or just a coincidence. But no matter what, it was a chance. The key was figuring out how to use that opportunity. Rumble, the quakes grew stronger. Jinwoo closed his eyes and let them move him instead of trying to stay steady. Don't let it get to you. Everything went silent, and he felt like he was floating in midair. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in the middle of a desert. He dropped to his knees, where he stood. Asa, huff, huff. He pushed his hands into the sand, and let out a shaky breath. Cool air filled his lungs. Finally, I can breathe. Overcome with relief, Jinwoo lay back on the ground. Above him was an empty black sky. He stared at the huge dark space. It looked like the penalty zone he remembered from before. Wait, I don't have time for this. After he barely got out of a really dangerous spot, he realized this place wasn't safe either. Jinwoo didn't feel like getting up, so he checked his stats screen as he lay there. HP 9310, 2070 MP 202850 fatigue 91. No wonder he felt so tired. His fatigue was over 90. This is the first time it's ever been that high, isn't it? He didn't even want to lift a finger. Jinwoo was worried about his HP, but he was more focused on reducing his fatigue. He opened the shop menu. Suddenly the words buy and sell popped up in front of him. The menu looked plain, like not much effort went into designing it. But Jinwoo was glad to see it now. He purchased the most expensive healing potion available. After Jinwoo finished buying the item, he heard a sudden sound. A small glass bottle filled with bright red liquid appeared in his hand. He quickly pulled out the cork and drank the potion. The red liquid went down his throat smoothly. His tiredness started to fade. Because it was such a powerful healing potion, he could tell his fatigue was going away fast. Strangely though, there was no change in his HP. His HP stayed the same even after he drank the potion, which was the opposite of what happened to his fatigue. Now, at 0. Why is that? Jinwoo got his answer when he swallowed the last drop of the potion. Peng, he heard a sound in his head. The message was simple enough. HP 93 out of 10, 2070 MP 24 out of 8 50 fatigue 0. Healing potions cannot recover HP when it dips below 10% of your total HP. His health was too low. That makes sense. Healing magic has limits too. This isn't anything new. A healer's power depends on their level, and potions have their own limits too. Healing potions can only do so much. It's good to know. If he were to rely too much on these remedies without understanding them, things might go terribly wrong someday. This is why personal experience is so important. As he often reminded himself, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Experience was everything because of this. Luckily Jinwoo had survived the penalty zone once before. It was almost time. Right when he expected it, Jinwoo felt something moving under him. He pulled his legs up and jumped to his feet. His body felt as light as a feather. The potion had given him lots of energy. Jinwoo landed safely and turned around. Shinch, just like he thought the spot where he had been lying, was now a sinkhole. Before he used to think falling into one would mean death. Now he stood calmly watching the hole with curiosity. The bottom of the pit started bubbling. Bubbling. At hills. A pillar of sand burst upward, and a huge centipede emerged. Ratapas. It was just like he remembered. The first time I saw one it scared me so much. Jinwoo looked up at the space above its head. He could clearly see red letters that read Poison-Toothed Giant Desert Centipede. The name was in red, just like Cerberus at the Demon's Castle. Then he received a quest message. Ping. Penalty quest survival, objective survive for the required time. Required time 4 hours, remaining time 4. Father December. Jinwoo felt excited when he read the message. He had bought himself some time with this quest. He still had a chance since he hadn't used the instant teleportation stone to escape. He thought, I'll probably be sent back there, as soon as I finish this penalty quest. If the system counted the time he spent in the penalty zone toward his total survival time, he would earn a huge number of experience points. He wasn't totally sure how it would work, but if he thought about how the system was set up to help him, he felt confident it would turn out well. 4 whole hours. He had been forced to grab the instant teleportation stone in under 10 minutes, but somehow got 4 extra hours, just because of being in a penalty area. There was only one problem. Could he escape safely with only around a 100 HP left? Since he couldn't heal himself with potions, he had to defeat the centipedes without taking too much damage until he leveled up. Now he had something to focus on. Let's do this. Jinwoo grabbed his dagger, called Kasaka's Venom Fang. He had 3 minutes and 59 seconds left. As soon as the challenge began, Jinwoo charged forward before the giant centipede could attack. Jinwoo moved quickly to close the distance. He jumped high onto one of the creature's legs near the middle of its body. As he climbed upward, he kept attacking. Shock! Shunk! Each strike from his dagger left cuts that leaked fluids. The centipede let out a loud screech and twisted in pain with every hit. Dash! Jinwoo moved even faster. Temp! He quickly reached the top of the creature. Gripping his dagger tightly with both hands, he prepared to strike. And then, fatal strike. With all his strength, Jinwoo stabbed the centipede. The blade stabbed into the centipede's head. Croc. A message popped up. Fatal strike skill level has increased. Yeah, it had been a while since Jinwoo heard any good news. The upgraded fatal strike did a lot of damage, and the centipede twisted in pain. Scree. But Jinwoo didn't stop there. He moved to the back of the giant creature where it was unprotected. With a swift motion he stabbed his dagger into it, then held tight as he slid along its back. The force of his attack was so strong it easily cut through the centipede's tough outer layer. Jinwoo landed safely on the ground. The centipede let out a loud screeching sound as it thrashed about before collapsing with a heavy thud. Sand flew everywhere from the impact. A notification sounded in Jinwoo's ear. He waved his hand to clear the dust, and checked the time remaining. He had 3 minutes and 59 seconds left. The fight had taken only 17 seconds. It was hard to believe something so dangerous could be defeated so quickly. This was nothing like his fight with Cerberus. Jinwoo was much stronger now. Thinking about how much he had leveled up since then and all the items he was using, it all made sense. He knew he could defeat the centipedes without losing any health points. The real question was whether there were enough of them to help him gain more experience and level up. This was crucial for completing his job change quest. If he couldn't recover his health, he would be in serious trouble. Suddenly more plumes of sand rose into the air. More centipedes had caught the scent of their wounded kind, and were now heading straight for Jinwoo. Roar! Jinwoo's face lit up with excitement. He wondered how many there were exactly. As he saw their heads popping out of the sand, he couldn't help but smile. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. 4 hours later, after battling all those centipedes, Jinwoo had gained 4 more levels. He was now level 51. The penalty quest was almost over. The goal was to survive for the required time, which was 4 hours. Jinwoo looked around and saw dead centipedes scattered across the desert. Their defeat had helped him recover his health, But unfortunately they didn't drop any items or gold. That made sense though, since this was a penalty zone. It was nearly time to leave. Shop. Balance 31,15,629 gold. He had earned plenty of gold from humanoid monsters, and even got an extra 15,000 gold from eye grease. Jinwoo decided to spend most of his money on one powerful weapon. He found something perfect for his needs. It was called the Night Killer. This weapon was great for fighting armored enemies. The blade had teeth like a saw which helped it cut through armor instead of bouncing off. When used against armored foes, this dagger dealt 25% more damage. It was very useful and cost 800,000 gold. He knew it would cost most of his money, but he didn't see a reason to worry about the price. What good is gold if you can stay alive? He bought it without hesitation. You have purchased Night Killer. You have purchased bandages. Jinwoo also picked up some bandages. He tightly held Night Killer in his right hand. The sword had a sawtooth blade that looked really scary. He wrapped it firmly with a bandage. As he swung it, swish-fish sounds filled the air. Night Killer felt like part of his hand as he practiced his swings. At least now he wouldn't drop it. For a moment he thought about strapping Kisaka's venom fang to his left hand, but then changed his mind. It would have been too uncomfortable to have both hands tied, so Jinwoo decided to keep one hand free. As he packed the rest of the bandages into his storage, he noticed the rune stone he had taken from Igris. Oh right. I totally forgot I had this thing. Rune stone ruler's hand. You can get the skill by breaking the stone. Jinwoo could use any help he could find, whether it was an item or a new ability. Without wasting time, Jinwoo broke the rune stone. You have learned skill ruler's hand. Skill ruler's hand. LV. 1 active skill. No magic needed. The user can control objects without touching them. Oh, so this must be how Igris moved its sword from across the room, just by reaching out. A skill that lets him move things with just his mind. And it doesn't even use any magic either. If this works like it says, it could make a huge difference. Jinwoo tried the skill on a nearby dead centipede. Object cannot be moved due to low proficiency. Object cannot be moved due to low proficiency. Looks like Jinwoo needs to get better at this skill before he can move heavier things. How about this? He dropped Kisaka's venom fang on the ground and held out his hand. A dagger suddenly appeared in his hand. He grabbed the handle of the blade and stared at it in amazement. This weapon would be super useful. With that he was all set to go. When he looked up, time was almost running out. Only 4 seconds remained. At 3 seconds left, a message popped up from the system. Ping, the penalty quest will end soon. Another message came right after. Ping, since you tried to hunt in the penalty zone, the next one will be even harder. The changes probably made it tougher to make it feel more like a punishment. But would he even get another chance? Jinwoo took a deep breath. Now he had to focus on the job change quest. There were a lot of monsters waiting for him in the boss's lair, and their numbers might have grown even more. He was being sent back to a tough place, kind of like being thrown into danger. His health, magic, energy, items, skills, and determination were all better than when he first entered this challenge. But he still felt nervous. Boom, boom, boom. His heart pounded so hard, it almost hurt. He closed his eyes trying to stay calm. Finally the chime sounded ping. You have completed the challenge quest. This is my last chance. Jinwoo opened his eyes again, and saw all the Silver Knights slowly turning toward him at the same time. However, they were not his focus. His eyes focused sharply as he looked around. He had to deal with the mages first. His reason was simple. If I'm right, he wanted to test an idea he had come up with earlier. Thud, 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 thud. Knights charged toward him, but Jinwoo stayed calm. He stepped on the shoulder of the leading knight, and jumped into the air. From where he stood he could see the whole room. Where are they? There. He spotted a mage not too far from him. I knew it. He had been right about what he had seen earlier. He wasn't just seeing things. When Jinwoo had reached his hand out through the horde of knights, he had seen something confusing through a small gap. A mage was casting spells without pause. It was normal for mages to cast spells, but Jinwoo noticed something strange. He wondered where all the magic was. The soldiers in armor were the only ones attacking him. He heard the mages chanting, but their magic wasn't working as expected with one exception. When one of them used their detection eyes to reveal a hidden ally, The knights around him stopped moving for a moment. At first Jinwoo thought they had stopped because their target had disappeared, but he later realized this while fighting centipedes in a restricted area. When he killed the 8th centipede, he raised his arms in excitement as the level up message appeared. You have leveled up. His health was fully restored, but his excitement didn't last long, because something felt off. Why was it so hard there when it's so easy here? The system had told him that healing after leveling up would stop, but it never said he couldn't level up at all. When he looked back, he had leveled up 5 times before starting his job change quest, but after that he didn't level up at all, even though he lasted 6 minutes and defeated nearly 100 knights. This was because the mages weren't using their magic, and the knights didn't give him any experience points. When Jinwoo thought about it, he had an idea. Maybe the knights in the lair were not real. They stopped moving, because the person controlling them had to pause their magic to use a special skill called Eyes of Detection. If I'm right, he was ready to test his idea. He dodged the knights trying to grab him and stepped on their heads and shoulders to hurry toward the mage. Jinwoo could tell the mage was getting scared. Its chanting got faster. The knights quickly stopped attacking and started protecting the mage instead. The possibility was becoming certain. He landed in front of the mage. Without a moment's hesitation, he struck him right through with his dagger. A sharp sound echoed. The mage disappeared silently in a puff of black smoke. A message appeared saying you had defeated the mage. At the same time, a loud clunking noise filled the air. The knights who were attacking Jinwoo fell to the ground, one by one like puppets whose strings had been cut. The empty suits of armor lay all over the floor. Jinwoo felt thrilled. After facing danger many times, he had finally figured it out. The knights weren't the real threat. The mages controlling them were the true targets. Jinwoo smiled at the irony as he looked at the empty robes on the floor. He'd found his stride again, but there was no time to celebrate. The quest wasn't over yet. The ground shook with a loud rumble. Jinwoo turned around and saw knights closing in on him from all sides. This meant there were mages hiding somewhere controlling these knights. The knights jumped toward him. Jinwoo's right hand moved so fast, it was almost invisible. With a swift motion, he cut down the first line of knights. Jinwoo blinked in surprise. Wow. The 800,000 gold was totally worth it. Knight Killer sliced through the armor like it was nothing. It wasn't just because of the sawtooth blade. As expected, Knight Killer was made for fighting armored enemies, and Jinwoo could feel magic coming from the dagger. Who knew store-bought weapons were this good? People usually think you should only buy them if you have no other choice. Now I see why gold is so important. These weapons are way better than the usual ones hunters use. He could also make a lot of money by buying weapons from the shop and selling them again to other hunters. Unlike items you use up, there was no rule against selling them to others. I need to focus. This was no time to get distracted. Knights kept closing in on Jinwoo. Swack, swish. He cut them down in groups while dodging their attacks, but it was clear. This is hopeless. He'd reduce their numbers only to look around and see even more coming. Shush. He beheaded another one. I need to find the mage. Before the headless knight fell, Jinwoo jumped onto its shoulders and leaped up. Hide. Zoom. Jinwoo vanished from sight. Of course his aim wasn't to hide, but rather a mage has used skill Eyes of Detection. A mage has used skill Eyes of Detection. A mage has used skill Eyes of Detection. Ping ping. A high-pitched alarm chimed from all directions. He bounded from one knight's head to the next to pinpoint the telltale eye symbols. There are 5 mages in all. He targeted the one closest to him. As soon as Jinwoo looked its way, the mage hurriedly commanded knights to protect it. But hugoosh. Kasaka's venom fang flew out of Jinwoo's left hand and straight into the center of the mage's forehead. Kark! You learned skill dagger throw. You have defeated a mage. Kot clang, hundreds more knights collapsed. 4 left. Leaping off one knight's head to another, Jinwoo swiftly made his way to his next target. Wait. He looked back at Kasaka's venom fang, which he hadn't gotten yet. It was time to use his new ability, Ruler's Hand. When Jinwoo stretched out his hand toward Kasaka's venom fang, the dagger flew back like it was pulled by a strong force. Yes, he caught the blade midair. He didn't need to step back to get his weapon, which meant he could move faster. In an instant he reached the next mage before it could react. Jinwoo struck it down. You have defeated a mage. More knights fell, and now less than half of them were left. Victory was near. Jinwoo's eyes grew sharper. 3 more to defeat. The mages felt scared, and huddled together while the knights grouped up too. The mages started chanting loudly at the same time. Their eerie voices echoed through the room as they cast their spell. Crack! The knights protecting the mages suddenly collapsed as if an invisible force was pressing down on them. They combined into one huge metal monster that immediately focused on Jinwoo. Is this really happening? Jinwoo was truly amazed by how intimidating the monster felt, but he wasn't scared. He had been in tough spots before, and now he felt more excited than worried. The ground shook with each heavy step the monster took. Jinwoo quickly dodged the monster's powerful punch. The metal fist barely missed him and smashed into a stone pillar behind him, with a loud crash. Even though it was really scary, Jinwoo smiled calmly. If he hadn't figured out what was happening, he would have been in big trouble fighting that giant.